Hello everyone. Welcome back to the Manic Manor podcast. This is Mitchie. I'm going to start this off by giving a major thank you to Brian for helping me fix the computer. We had some major issues, but hopefully we won't have any more. We are going to continue our Haunted Tennessee series, and we are talking about an area that is right in my hometown, the Bijou Theatre. So let's get started. Now, the Bijou Theatre is a popular theater located square in the heart of downtown Knoxville. It thrives in honoring Knoxvillian heritage while showcasing many different performances each night. Located right on Gay Street, it's right where people would walk by each and every day, and to some it may seem pretty inauspicious, especially if you're only a tourist that's coming through. But to others, they know of the history and believe it to be one of the most haunted areas that East Tennessee has to offer. It's one of the oldest and most beloved icons in the city, so let's take a look at its history. Now, the Bijou Theatre was not always known as the Bijou Theatre. In 1801, the Bijou was known as the Lamar House, built by Irish immigrant Thomas Humes. This home sat on a parcel of land granted to Revolutionary War General James White. And according to the actual page that the Bijou Theatre has, it's believed to be one of the oldest commercially active properties in Knoxville and quite possibly the state of Tennessee. Now, while it was known as the Lamar House, it was a hotel built and it quickly gathered nobility and wealthy individuals. In fact, the hotel is said to have housed President Andrew Jackson and some other presidents as well, but most notoriously they said that it was Andrew Jackson. In 1857, the ownership of the building went to Colonel William H. Sneed, who would lease the building out for profit, but the Lamar House remained a bustling social scene and would be remodeled. Now, the Lamar House had a history also regarding the Civil War. During this time around when the Union Army took control of the Knoxville area around 1863, the Lamar House was converted into a makeshift hospital, and because of the history, you obviously know that there would be hundreds of injuries and even deaths that would go through those halls. Sneed ended up getting the hotel back despite there being countless lawsuits being filed demanding for the property to be confiscated due to the Civil War, and Sneed and others that were surrounding the ownership of this property being ex-Confederates. Now, when Sneed died, his children inherited the house and they remodeled continuously to keep up with the status. Across the street from the Lamar House was an opera house, where so many wealthy individuals would grace the halls of the hotel. There would be masquerade balls held in the ballrooms, complete with all the finest wines and cigars for the patrons to enjoy. And the hotel would continue to receive many of these affluent guests, such as former President Rutherford B. Hayes, General James Clanton, whom later actually passed away in the Lamar House Hotel after being shot by an attorney named David Nelson. But the hotel would soon end up losing the bustle and shine for a period in the 1890s when the Southern Railroad was given much more focus in the area of Knoxville. With the decline in profits, the Sneed children decided that they would sell the hotel in 1895, to which it went through a multitude of owners before it would be purchased in 1908 by the Auditorium Company. This is where we come to know the Bijou as it is. The Bijou Theatre was born. The hotel was purchased by the company with the intention to add in the actual theater itself. The Lamar House building continued to operate as a hotel, as well as a store and a restaurant, while the theater would provide entertainment such as many shows and performances to entertain the locals. It had an opening of March 8th, 1909, with a production of Little Johnny Jones, viewed by a completely sold-out audience. The theater, in turn, was a major success, and many performances would be seen throughout the years. While there were plenty of movie theaters in the area, having an area that would have stage performances is what drew in the crowds. This would continue on from the early 1900s well into the 50s. Many great performing acts would show up to the theater to entertain the locals, giving the theater the nickname at one point of the Joy Spot of Knoxville. However, when the 1960s and 70s rolled around, the area of downtown Knoxville saw a steady decline again. Instead of there being plays for the wealthy, as in the times of old, it turned to a more lewd audience. Pornographic movies started to be shown just to keep the theater afloat. In 1974, the owner of the theater was evicted for failure to pay the property taxes, and the Bijou Theatre was facing demolition. This is when a group of Knoxville citizens successfully saved the building. The building was saved for a brief time being and used for performing arts, but the funding was usually scarce and the maintenance of the building greatly suffered. Somehow, the theater still managed to struggle on despite all of this into the new millennium. However, it was always on the edge of foreclosure. It was in 2005 that there was a beam of hope that struck for the Bijou. Two businessmen held off the foreclosure while the loan was being renegotiated. Back then, we had Governor Bill Haslam. He was the then mayor of Knoxville and announced a strategy around March 30th, 2005 to save the theater and preserve it for future generations. The doors to the theater would then reopen a year later in 2006, and they have stayed open to date. The theater just recently celebrated, I believe, the 100th birthday. It was 2009 they celebrated their 100th birthday. And so each year they have a celebration which is known as the annual Bijou Jubilee. Now, the rich history has birthed a ton of rumors of supernatural activity, especially with the heavy involvement of the Civil War. According to many sites, people can see the spirit of General Sanders. He's been seen walking around the theater. Several people have also come forth and said that they see him only for him to vanish within a blink of an eye. And it's not just him that you'll see. There was also a speculation that the theater and the hotel once dealt briefly with being a brothel, and it's claimed that there are spirits of men and women alike seeking salvation, scared to move on to the other side because they don't know what kind of judgment that they are going to see. There is also the rumor of a spirit of a child that's known to tug on the coat sleeves of people trying to enjoy shows, begging for anybody's attention. Now, they say the child is mainly seen to be on the second floor in the women's bathroom. Some of the people who have worked there tell people that they shouldn't be too concerned about the paranormal activity, though. Some claim the ghosts are simply just curious, or even happy. Regardless, the Bijou has stood for over 200 years, so I would say the history speaks for itself. Now, there's a story that was brought up regarding more hauntings, a feud between former owner Thomas Sneed and Thomas Atkins. Go figure, they're both named Thomas. Now, Atkins worked and owned the Atkins Hotel, and they were both in the hotel business. Naturally, they had a rivalry. Now, one night around 3 a.m., Atkins had had a lot to drink and needed water, so he ended up going to the Lamar house for some reason in hopes that he could get water, only nobody there would serve him, and this pissed him off. So he was belligerent. Sneed came down, and soon enough a shouting match ensued between the two of them. This led to physical confrontation. Now, Thomas Sneed yelled out that Atkins had pulled a knife on him. Atkins rebutted, claiming he didn't need one to fight against Sneed. Sneed then pulled out a pistol. Infuriated, Atkins grabbed Sneed and shoved him. Sneed, in his anger, shot Atkins dead. Now, despite being over his body and having a gun, somehow Sneed only got off on self-defense. So now it's said that if you hear footsteps around 3 a.m. in the Bijou Theatre, you should simply just offer a glass of water. Seems like a small act of kindness if all it takes to appease that spirit at the Bijou. Now we're going to go into a more personal note. I have had family members that have gone to the Bijou and experienced supernatural occurrences as well. I have full permission by my uncle. His name is Joe. I won't say the last name just in case he doesn't want that, but he told me just last week he had been there at the Bijou about a few years back at this point to watch a show that was going on. Now, at some point during the performance, he went to go use the restroom. When I spoke to him, he swears up and down that he was the only man in the restroom at the time. Now, he went about doing his business as you would in the restroom, and suddenly he heard one of the stall doors slam shut close to him. Now, when he stepped out to investigate, that entire bathroom was empty except for him. To put it bluntly, he got the hell out of Dodge. And while I myself have not been inside the Bijou Theatre, I have walked past it multiple times, especially with my boyfriend Brian. We've walked past it multiple times downtown. I myself never get the sense that there is something that is watching me or that there's something amiss. I might have a completely different feeling if I was to walk into the Bijou myself. But Brian has said, just walking around downtown Knoxville in general, not just the Bijou, but just walking downtown, especially towards the area where the old train tracks are, that he gets the feeling that he should be looking over his shoulder because it feels like there's something out there watching. So my question to you who are listening, have you been to the Knoxville area or have you been to the Bijou Theatre? Have you experienced anything? If so, I would love to know what your experiences are. And as always, if there is something that I have gotten wrong or something that can be corrected or expanded upon, please do not hesitate to let me know. Please feel free to reach out to manicmanorpodcast@gmail.com. You can also reach out on Facebook and Instagram at Manic Manor Podcast. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode about the Bijou Theatre. And as always, I will see you in the next episode.